live with mercy, and reflect God's love. Mercy is not just a word. It is the essence of God's character, manifesting in our relationships with others. God's love and mercy know no bounds, and He calls us to reflect this love in our own lives. This message clarifies what it means to show mercy, how the examples from Scripture can guide us in this, and how we can follow these examples in our modern world. In Scripture, especially in the Gospels, we see many examples of how Jesus showed mercy to people. In Matthew 9:36, it says, "When He saw the crowds, He had compassion on them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd." Jesus was moved by compassion and care, and this was expressed in His actions. He healed the sick, raised the dead, fed the hungry, and forgave sinners. Another example of mercy is the parable of the Good Samaritan, Luke 10:30-37. In this parable, Jesus tells the story of a man who was in a desperate situation and was ignored by others. But the Samaritan, despite prejudices and differences, showed compassion and help. This story shows that true mercy transcends social and cultural barriers. It is selfless and active. From the Old Testament, we can see how mercy was reflected in the laws and teachings given to God's people. In Isaiah 58:6-7, it says, "Is this not the fast I have chosen, to loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and that you bring to your house the poor who are cast out?" These words speak of how true religiosity and worship of God are not in rituals, but in actions aimed at helping and supporting others. In Psalm 41:1-2, it says, "Blessed is he who considers the poor. The Lord will deliver him in the time of trouble." These words emphasize the importance of helping those in need and promise God's blessings to those who show mercy. It is important to understand that mercy is not only about material help, but also about spiritual support, compassion, and understanding. In the New Testament, Jesus speaks about the importance of forgiveness and compassion in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5:7. He teaches us to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. This demand requires sacrifice and showing mercy even to those who, by human standards, do not deserve it. In this, the greatness of God's love is revealed, which is not limited by our own interests and boundaries. In today's world, showing mercy can take many forms. It can be helping the needy, forgiving those who have wronged us, caring for the homeless and orphans, participating in social projects and volunteer activities. It is essential to remember that every act of mercy, no matter how small, matters and reflects God's love. Showing mercy begins with the heart. As it is written in Matthew 5-8, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." This means that to show true kindness and compassion, we need to cleanse our hearts of selfishness, pride, and hatred. When we sincerely open our hearts to God and allow Him to transform us, we can more effectively serve others and show mercy. Mercy is also linked with humility. In Philippians 2:3-4, it says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others." This teaching reminds us that mercy requires self-sacrifice and the readiness to put others' needs above our own. Showing mercy also includes supporting and caring for those close to us. In Galatians 6:2, it says, "Bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ." This means that we are called to support each other in difficult times, to share joys and sorrows, and to be ready to help. Every act of mercy is a reflection of God's love and goodness. God calls us to follow His example and do good, even when it is difficult or requires sacrifices. Scripture reminds us that God watches our actions and will reward us for our faithfulness and compassion. Mercy is not just a word, but an active life full of love and kindness. It is the embodiment of God's character in our lives. By acting according to the teachings of Scripture, we become living examples of God's love in this world, and our testimony can lead others to know God and His grace. In every action aimed at helping and supporting others, we continue to serve God and reflect His love. Remember, each of us can make the world a better place by showing mercy in our daily actions. Follow the example of Jesus, who came to serve, not to be served, and do good to all who need it. When you show mercy, you are not only helping others, but also pleasing God. God's mercy is infinite, and He calls us to share this mercy with those around us. May every day be filled with acts of kindness and compassion, and may your life be a testimony to God's love and grace.